can I just say one thing firstly? I love the name Eat Sleep Boxing Repeat.
ESBR Boxing, we are back, myself and Paul Kelly. That means one thing and one thing only. We're here in preview mode and we are previewing some heavyweight action taking place. A fight between Lawrence Okolie and Kevin Lerena for the WBC Silver Heavyweight Championship taking place obviously at Wembley Stadium. Paul, thank you very much for joining me. We're going to obviously unpick this fight a little bit as well. Obviously, maybe talk about the fortunes and favours of both men, how they're going to go over the future, win or lose, depending on who prevails. But first and foremost, please, if you'd like to give me your thoughts and predictions on this fight, Paul, and then we'll move on from there. Thank you.
Yeah, pleasure as always to be on speaking and previewing fights with you, mate. This is an interesting one for me. It's obviously only the second fight we're seeing of Coley at heavyweight. Lerena, okay, he's been beaten a few times, but been in good company. I suppose was so close to beating Dubois. Look how different would the heavyweight landscape have been if Lerena had got that done. Knocked Dubois down three times in the first round. Ultimately was stopped in the third, but like so close to knocking Dubois out in a round. So yeah, intriguing. I think this is a step up for obviously from his first heavyweight fight at Coley. I think the word on the street is that Coley's going to be a good bit lighter than his heavyweight debut. He was a bit too big, I think. So I think we're going to get a faster, more athletic, still as powerful Lawrence Okolie. And I think that maybe he's not the best fighter in the world and might not go on to win a world heavyweight title. We'll maybe talk about that in a second. But yeah, I think Lawrence Okolie gets the job done here and gets the job done via stoppage. I'm going to go stoppage in the mid rounds, maybe around 5, 6, 7, maybe yeah, around 5, 6. I'm going for a Lawrence Okolie stoppage.
Oh, very interesting. You know what? I like this fight as well. I think it's quite a decent matchup. I think you obviously look at Lorena, obviously had obviously him down, but then also going the distance with Justice, who was also like seems to be, his stock was quite busy, wasn't it, after the last sort of performance he put in as well. So I think this is actually a credible fight for Lawrence Okolie. I can actually see a world where Lawrence Okolie loses this. I genuinely can. I can see like it depends on the motivation of Kevin Lerena. I think we've seen with Lawrence Okolie, like you said, he's not necessarily the best, and also he requires quite a lot of holding in fights as well, quite a lot of kind of avoidance. So it depends on whether he can kind of do that. I think Kevin Lerena obviously got 15 KOs in his 30 victory, so he's not literally Daniel Dubois sort of one punch knockout artist. So on the one hand, you're thinking sitting there going, he's not going to sort of catch in the way, so maybe Cody can take him on the stretch. But I think there's a world where Kevin Lerena does win this. But however, I'm not going to predict that. I actually think Lawrence Okolie on points is probably where I'm going with this one. I think he'll have to come in lighter when than he came in last time. What was it, like 260 pounds or something outrageous last time? Really, he's in terrible shape. So I think I still think maybe Lawrence Coley's got enough to get the job done here. Not necessarily by stoppage for me. I'm actually going to go points. So Coley points for me. But let's have a look at. You mentioned there that you think Lawrence Coley may or may not win a world title, or maybe not even fight for him. But I suppose the question will be, do you think he'll win a world version, Paul? If you want to just unpick that a little bit more, if you ever sort of time to consider it, do you think there is a world where Lawrence Coley at the ripe old age currently of 32, which is young for a heavyweight, whether he can kind of the landscape will shift to the point where he'll fight for a world title, and if so, whether he'll win it?
Yeah, for me, this is an interesting one because it all depends on how the landscape unfolds at the very top of the division. Excuse me. So, like, whether they're retired or not, or the likes of Usyk, uh, Fury, and Joshua, they don't have long left. So, Okolie will still likely be about when they're all the way. The belts could become fragmented in the not so distant future as well. Dubois is going to be hanging about. You'd imagine he'll continue to be a world champion for a long time, even if he loses to Usyk in the main event here. He'll probably pick up another version of it in the not so distant future. I think, like, put it this way, I'll say, do you know what? Lawrence Okolie, I could see Lawrence Okolie winning a version of a world heavyweight title, yes. Do I think he's an amazing fighter? Not really, but there's been far worse fighters in all weight divisions, including heavyweight, that have won world titles. For example, Charles Martin was world heavyweight champion, as we know, before Joshua stopped him. Like, Lawrence Okolie's better than Charles Martin, let's be honest. Yeah. So I definitely see him fighting for a version of it. Don't see him beating any of those top guys. Um, but as you said, he's young for a heavyweight. He probably got a lot left. He is a big puncher, mate. He's a very big puncher. I know that style that he had at cruiserweight was a bit boring sometimes, the grab and hold and all that kind of stuff. But he's clearly a big puncher. I think up at heavyweight, he can. It's definitely translated up there from cruiserweight. His dynamite in his fist, so can stop really anybody, I reckon. And I can see a world in which he wins a version of a fragmented world heavyweight title against a lesser opponent in a favourable draw. So yes, I'll go out on a limb and say yes, Lawrence Okolie becomes world heavyweight champion.
Thank you very much for that prediction. I was going to say bold prediction, but actually, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I think he's still young. The landscape will shift. He's not going to fight those guys that you mentioned. I don't think, like the likes of Joshua Fury, Usyk, that are kind of leading the division now. Obviously Fury coming back was retired, but I feel like the next generation. Obviously, you've got Daniel Dubois. He's going to have to sort of go through probably Daniel Dubois at some stage. But I don't necessarily think. Obviously, there's a Tuma and there's other guys that are coming through as well. And I feel like it'll be a challenge, but I feel like he'll definitely fight for one. I feel like another way that it almost feel like his style is not that exciting as has been said before. It's not a new style. So whether he can kind of continue to sort of stop lesser opponents and kind of do away with that perception a little bit up at heavyweight might help him. But I think at the moment there's still a sort of jury out as to how sort of box office he is and whether we've got the opportunity that way. But I do think he will fight for a version of the world title at some point. For me, do I think he'll win it? Again, it's like you said. I think it depends on the opponent. I don't see him beating sort of like an elite name in the division. I just don't. I think like those guys that are kind of because obviously everyone's big up there as well. People are people are big. People carry power. People are also quite fast. Faster than Lawrence Okolie. Lawrence Okolie obviously has power, but his style's not necessarily the best. So I would say that I actually don't think he'll win a world title. I'm going to say that now. I think he'll fight for one, but I'm not convinced he'll win one. I could be proven wrong, and this clip will surface when it does. And in that case, I'll congratulate Lawrence Okolie from wherever I am. But at the moment, I don't think Lawrence Cody will win a world title, to be perfectly honest with you. But let's talk a little bit, I suppose, about some of those names that are around the division. Some obviously up and coming. One I mentioned to you now is obviously kind of on the way out. But if you were going to have Lawrence Okolie fighting, we're talking British names, if you're going to fight someone like Wardley, Atuma, Dillian White, Dave Allen, your man Dave Allen, those sort of four names, how would you have Lawrence Okolie against those guys? Then maybe we can kind of see, I suppose, where you think the level he's at currently.
Suppose it's an exciting heavyweight scene in Britain, isn't it? Just below the top level. There's loads there on the fringes of world level. I mean, of those names that you've mentioned, I think at this stage, Lawrence Okolie stops Dylan White for me. I think that's almost a foregone conclusion. I'd be fairly confident in that. I actually think he beats Fabio Wardley as well. I predicted Fabio Wardley lose so many fights just because I think like his fundamentals he's so much worse than other people he's fighting, but obviously he does just pull it out of the bag. So credit to him. So I probably actually would favour Okolie there, but again, equally like it wouldn't surprise me. And Wardley would probably be a favourite. Ataima, too good. I think he's the future, really, isn't he? I think Moses Ataima um could be the real deal already. And will only get better. And he's only 20 years old, 19, whatever it is. Absolutely crazy. I think he beats Okolie. Dave Allen. Oh, um, I think Dave Allen's not stupid. I think Dave Allen's knows that he's like a British level heavyweight. On a good day, could maybe beat some of these guys. But if you're talking the best version of Lawrence Okolie, I'd probably have to go with Okolie there, to be honest. As much as it pains me to say it. But yeah, that's how I kind of see him faring against those four British names you mentioned.
Yeah, no, get that clip. We'll put that on the socials. I think if we, I think Lawrence Okolie. No, I agree with you. I think Lawrence Okolie beats Dillian White convincingly. I think, to be honest with you, if he gets Dillian White to sort of go to sort of round 3 or 4, his pace will drop so significantly that when Okolie actually catches him with that power that he's got, I think Dillian White's going over. Seen Dillian White hurt many times, so I'd have Okolie KO. I agree with you there. I actually think Fabian Wardley would beat Lawrence Okolie, but I'm not 100% confident in that prediction because, as we know, Lawrence Okolie carries power. Fabian Wardley gets hit. So there'll be obviously a sense of can he kind of withstand that power or can he can he detonate on Lawrence Coley beforehand? I think that's the kind of question for me. So that's a close fight. Atama, yeah, beats him. I think that's a convincing victory for Moses Atama. Frankly, I think he's obviously got too much ability and too much power himself. Dave Allen, I actually would love to see that fight next. I really would. I feel like obviously Coley's got power to really hurt Dave Allen, and Dave Allen does get hit. But Dave Allen's fundamentally a much better boxer than Lawrence Okolie, so if he can kind of remain motivated, is there a world where Dave Allen can avoid that power and also, maybe grind to a sort of decision victory, or maybe grind to the end of the fight and take it close? So that for me is quite a close fight. But I think I agree with you. I feel like Lawrence Okolie's kind of in that mix because he's been a world champion. You kind of think, oh, maybe he's above the kind of like the British level, beneath the sort of world champion that approaching there. But I think he's kind of in that mix. To be perfectly honest with you at this stage, till he fights maybe someone who's more renowned up at heavyweight. Lerena will be a good test for that as well, I think. To be perfectly honest, but. Paul, sadly, that's all we've got time for. So, guys, please like and subscribe to the channel. Obviously, got all your boxing needs up and under one roof. We've got obviously more previews like this. We've got reviews, fight footage, feature interviews with fighters, all that sort of good stuff. So, please like and subscribe to the channel for that. Obviously, check out our other previews as mentioned. But, Paul, all there's left for me to say is thank you very much for joining me. And, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching.
Cheers for watching, folks. Thanks, mate. Pleasure as always.